All right, guys. We'll get going here in a minute, just waiting for a few people to come in and jump on our stream. So just give it a few minutes, we'll get going. All right, let's jump into this. Welcome, everyone. Glad that you could spend a little bit of time with me today. Hopefully, I can bring some value to you. Today, we're going to be discussing I think, a pretty widespread topic in our market, and that's hiring. That's finding the right guys for our business, finding the right subcontractors. Let's jump into this. Um, Before I get going here, I'm going to ask maybe just to see what I'm working with here in the chat. How many of you guys are actively looking to hire right now? If you throw a one in the chat for me, actively looking to hire staff or yeah, perfect. Okay. Has anybody noticed a big shift in hiring? You know, we were in a massive labor shortage. Anybody really struggling and seeing a big shift in the quality and the quantity of applicants that you're getting from, let's say, even 2 years ago? Hard to find good quality. Absolutely. So hopefully this will speak directly to you. And we want to get to actually walking away with some action items today, things that we can do today to start to improve the outcomes that we are currently experiencing. So um, good help is impossible to find. I hear that, all the time, and I once believed it was true myself. And went through the pain and struggling of, really kind of getting to the bottom of why it's so hard to find good guys. Okay. Most contractors believe hiring is just about luck or timing. All right. Or they just don't believe that there's anybody out there to fill those roles at all. All right. What I'm hopefully going to be able to do is help you to shift that belief a little bit today, into understanding that hiring has become a permanent system. All right. And one of the things I'd always like to share, is the day that I realized that hiring and recruiting was exactly the same as marketing and sales. And if I just treated them the same with the same intensity and same purpose, I generally got a good result on both sides. All right. So I want you guys to really start to think, if you're treating your hiring, and recruiting and onboarding the same way you would treat your marketing and sales. All right. Obviously, if we let our pipeline run dry, on our marketing and sales, bad things happen. Well, that's the exact same thing that happens with recruiting and hiring. All right. So a lot of this is going to be about shifting our beliefs, our understanding of, actually attracting the right people for our business and being consistent with that. So the mindset leads you to frustration and a lot of wasted time. Okay. What I see most often is that if you are waiting to hire, all right, until you need to hire somebody, it's already too late. Okay. We should be thinking about doing these things well in advance. And, the contractors who really get this, they're actually recruiting and hiring 24/7, 365. All right. So what that prevents us from doing is making bad hires, right? We all know and should know the pain of making a bad hire. All right. But I don't think a lot of contractors have really calculated what that cost is. All right. Because then it would be even more painful. So bad hires drain your profits, slow your jobs, and hurt your reputation. A bad hire can cost 30% of annual salary. All right. So 30% of their annual salary, they can be at a cost to you. Okay. I would even say that they can come with negative ROI, meaning that you're not actually earning anything off of them. And in fact, they're hurting your business. And I've seen that a lot, especially when we're just trying to put warm bodies in place. Okay. So why warm bodies don't build great teams? All right. So just filling the seats it leads to turnover and chaos. All right. And again, I've definitely had to do this at times in my business. We really stopped doing that, and we understand that a hiring process. If you're looking to hire top quality guys, first of all, we have to track them. All right. One of the key principles there is that good guys, they're not looking for jobs. Okay. So if you really want top talent, all right, we have to attract them because they're not looking for jobs. All right. Doesn't mean you can't attract them and have them come work for you. It just means that our mindset has to change a little bit and our approach has to change a little bit. Most of you, I'm not sure, maybe you give me an idea in the chat. How many of you guys are using job boards like Indeed or anything like that? How many of you guys are using a job board? Okay. Not too many of you. Okay. So one thing that you'll find when you're using, platforms like Indeed or anything along those lines is typically what you find there are people who are transient, all right, especially with the trades, okay, all the way up to project managers, meaning they've been there before. And generally they're moving from company to company. It's been our observation. And when we hire from those particular places, not to say, they're all bad, all right. But when we've hired in the past, we don't no longer use them. We actually tracked a negative ROI, meaning that it cost us more money to hire people from there than any other source that we had. All right. So I really encourage people to think about the process in a different way. Start to think about it in, the same way we would in our marketing, and things begin to change. Okay. So again, not just filling the seats with warm bodies. All right. We want to have quality skilled techs. And one quality skilled tech, if that's what you're using, all right, would beat three unreliable ones. Okay. 57% of contractors report high turnover from rushed hiring. So I would say this is one of the biggest issues is that, again, we're waiting until we need somebody to start looking to hire. All right. And what ends up happening there is we just fill those seats with warm bodies and people that don't really fit our business. Okay. And this cascades into bigger and worse problems for us. So I love to talk about steps. I'd like to give you a nice, clear plan on how we can start to resolve this. All right. But we've got to get clear on our core values. This is very, very important. And, some people might roll their eyes at, core values as being a part of hiring. And how I can immediately start to solve my problem with this. But I'll put it to you like this. Without core values, essentially having a message that's unique or branded into the market, into the hiring market, into the hiring pool, all right, is very difficult. And again, if you can't stand for anything and you're not actively promoting what your core values are in your company, you're not going to attract people, to your business that is going to be a good fit. All right. And again, it takes a little bit of time to do this, but it provides a lifetime of opportunity for you to attract the right type of people. Okay. This goes into your advertising. This goes into every, square inch of hiring, specifically your onboarding, right? And really having an idea of how to manufacture employees, how to manufacture, rinse and repeat your process so that you're never in the position where you need, to fill the space with a warm body. Okay. So define exactly who you need, the skills, the attitude, the experience, right? We want to imagine the person, the avatar that would fit your role perfectly. Okay. This would be our very first step in any sort of, permanent hiring system. All right. Because we want to think of the role, we want to have clarity there. Okay. Contractors with clear job descriptions fill the role 2 times faster. Okay. As well as, again, we want to think of this
Yeah.
even more to the point, is how are you going to onboard these people? And again, how can we build a system around maybe not just onboarding one person, but many people over the lifetime of our business. Okay. Um, don't hire helpers, hire specific roles. Okay. So the quick win here, all right, and I'm going to share with you guys a tool at the end of our call, that's going to help you through some of this in terms of getting it done today. Um, is write a clear job description today. All right. So I challenge everybody that's on the call. I'm again going to give you some tools and some assets, but if you were to just take the role that you're looking to hire right now and create an absolute clear job description, all right, one that a contractor or a tradesperson would understand.
There's nothing up there. No.
Okay. One thing I don't want you to fall into the trap of, let me just mute everyone. And I certainly made this mistake early on, is not really paying attention to those job descriptions and, putting, maybe using ChatGPT and not really paying attention to what exactly it is that you need, specifics. Okay. And I want you to write it or design it, in terms of the person who's going to receive it to understand. All right. So if it's clear, all right, if it's concise, a lot more interest will be found in that job description. And again, this goes into your marketing and your advertising of this role. Okay. Step two, we want to streamline your hiring process. All right. So for the purposes of our discussion today, I'm not going to get into what Contractor AI offers. I'm going to get a little bit into it. I said that backwards. All right. We offer a fully automated AI process system. Again, this would typically be suited for contractors that are going to be hiring often. All right. So if you have a good demand, if you're looking to hire one or two people, probably not the best fit. Okay. And we're going to talk about really simple things, again, that we can start to implement today. All right. So we want to use a simple, repeatable process for every new hire. Okay. We want to have a pre-screen phone interview. All right. Before in person. This is something that I see quite often, is not having that quick 15-minute phone interview where you have a good script, a good understanding, a scorecard for your new hire. All right. This is super powerful. Just jumping on the phone, having that 15-minute conversation with them would generally, just like you would with a lead, all right, weed out a lot of the ones that wouldn't fit, or have made mistakes on their application to you. Okay. So we want to have a structured process. The reason we're going to have a structured process, so I mean documented, clear, all right, is that this is definitely something that you will want to eventually delegate. Okay. If you've done enough of these pre-call screenings, all right, pre-interview screenings, you'll realize pretty quick that it's mainly just verifying the information that they've shared, but super important for protecting your time. Okay. Last thing you want to do is have an interview with somebody that was never qualified to begin with. All right. Again, if you have a good solid application, which I highly recommend everybody consider having, all right, this is a screening tool. All right. That in there we have an ability to check some references. Definitely do not skip that process, and especially in the trades. I can't tell you how much pain I've removed from just having those quick calls, understanding who they worked for last, and being very, very methodic about checking references and making sure I'm dealing with the right people. Okay. A lot of times people can even interview very well. All right. You can think you found a real prize and then, very quickly find out that maybe they're not. And you saved yourself a world of pain. This is also something that can be delegated, right? So as part of your hiring process, I would say the majority of it, all right, at least 90% of it can be completely delegated or systemized, automated. All right. Depending on where you are in your growth. All right. This is something, BAs can do if you haven't built a system yet. All right. But again, getting clear on the process, getting clear on the steps, that is 100% the CEO's of your business's obligation and responsibility to make sure that you have a good, clean process. So, step three, attract the right people. All right. Again, I'm going to use it as a reference. We want to sell the company. Why should someone work for you? All right. In the sea of companies that are out there, and sometimes the way I like to explain this, this whole principle and concept, is, you know, I'm assuming everybody here was at one point in the trade. All right. I'm sure you guys were the Wayne Gretzky, the best there ever was of whatever trade you specialize in. All right. Um, Ask yourself, did you ever have to go into a job board? Did you ever have to go to a job board to get a job? All right. Where looking around and Indeed to find your position. Maybe you were, all right, but I'll tell you from my own experience, no, I never had to go very far to find, my next position if I was moving, even when I started out. So the principle here is good guys, okay, good staff, good members, they already got jobs. All right. Assume that the best guys that you're looking for already have jobs. That's who we want to attract, is the people who are already working, for your competitors, for other businesses in your field. Okay. They have jobs. Our job here now is to develop a system that attracts people, all right, that already have jobs. Okay. That means conversations and having them see your company as a prize. Okay. We can do this a lot through social media. I do obviously recommend it. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. You can be sure that your ideal new hire is in those platforms. All right. Now I want you to ask yourself, are you there? And are you talking about your company culture? Are you giving people the idea of what it would be like to work with you? Right. Perfect example is the grass greener on the other side? All right. If your next best hire, all right, is looking over and wondering that, and you're not displaying it, chances are you're not going to be able to make that hire. Okay. So things that you can do, especially before ads, all right, is get your social media up to date. You want to share real photos, team stories, and clear benefits. All right. So even before ads, we can be putting this in our organic social media platforms. All right. Adding posts to let people know you're hiring. All right. But even more important than that, letting them see what it's like to come and work for your company. Okay. This can be short form content. Again, if you want to take this to the next level, short form content, those are the things that I'm sure everyone here has been stuck on at one point or another. All right. That's those short video clips. All right. Using short form content is very effective for building awareness of your company. And especially if you're looking to attract top talent and hiring, we've made incredible amount of hires just through Instagram DMs, all right, by showing our work, by letting them know that we're hiring. It creates conversations. Okay. And then next to that, we have job ads. So a lot of contractors don't utilize this. And I'm always curious as to why. The best bang for our buck that we've been able to find is, again, looking for or trying to attract people that are working for our competitors using Instagram, Facebook ads, right? We'll call it subliminal messaging. All right. The way you set these up, again, can be very strategic. All right. And then from a Facebook ad, we're able to push them to a application, a form, all right, where we're capturing their contact information and using a CRM to actually contact them. Okay. So again, exactly like marketing and sales. All right. I'm sure most of you guys would have some sort of CRM or a customer relationship system. We use the CRM the same way for our hiring recruiting pipelines. Okay, we treat them exactly the same. All right. So job ads with team photos get about 34% more applicants. Okay. So again, think about how you're going to present yourself into the hiring market. And the other thing that I'm going to say that's really important to this, if you're at the ad stage, ad step, all right, it's about consistency. All right. Very gone are the days where we can just and I wish maybe some people would remember, but we used to be able to put an ad in the back of the newspaper in the classifieds, and I would get the perfect hire. All right, those are long gone days. But we have actually a better opportunity now than ever if we are very, very strong in this area of consistently bringing in people to be warm on the bench. Okay. And the best way I'll try and explain this is that for every one employee that I have nearly 20 replacement employees that are interviewed on deck, ready to go. Okay. I didn't get that by just running one set of ads. I'm running them 24/7, 365. And the other benefit to that is that we see even better returns on our marketing. And most people don't make this connection, but if you're running a hiring recruitment ad, and let's say you're running Instagram ads for prospecting your customers, okay, it doesn't matter if you're running a hiring ad, they see and recognize your brand, all right. That way, when your actual prospecting ads come around, all right, you're actually increasing the conversion rate there as well. All right. So what we know to be true is that if you're running a leads ads campaign alongside with a hiring and recruiting ads campaign, the hiring and recruiting is literally paid for itself just by the increase in the marketing side, right? So for new customers and leads. So for me, it would be stupid of me not to run hiring and recruiting, and we should be running those at the same time. You run them all year long. You don't have to spend a lot of money on them. Again, we get by with $4 or $5 a day to run our ads, and we have nonstop applicants, a long list of wait list, where we're not struggling to just fill in with warm bodies. Okay. So now let's imagine that we've made this hire. Okay. The biggest opportunity is in your onboarding. Now, I'm not going to get deep into this. All right. Most contractors that I encounter have no sort of onboarding system in place, and that's fine. Okay. But I want you to understand that there is a huge benefit in investing some time, and we can start with a very simple onboarding system. All right. And this could be a checklist. Again, we're going to make no excuses here. You could have a simple checklist. I'm going to share some resources with you at the end of this call that's going to give you a lot of these ideas on how to do this. All right. But absolutely critical that we're following some sort of process for our onboarding. All right. That we have an idea of how this new hire is going to fit in. Um, I'm sure most of you had the same experience I had coming into the trades. There was definitely no onboarding of any sort. It was trial by fire. Just, if you made it through the first day, you could come back the next day. Unfortunately, that doesn't work in the climate that we're in now, and especially with the younger age groups. Okay. So, very important that you understand, like every other market and industry, if we're coming into the trades and there's no sort of structure, no sort of onboarding, that it's going to lead to a shorter stay at your company. All right. So if you're struggling with a big turnover, all right, the first place you want to look is the onboarding. All right. Getting your onboarding correct, getting people on, up and running in your business fast and efficiently. Okay. Doesn't just pay at the front. All right. But it leads to a longer tenure for an average employee. Okay. So day one matters. Again, we want to set expectations, introduce to the team, review safety. Okay. But let's make sure that we're actually following a system, a repeatable process. Okay. And we want to structure onboarding, a structured onboarding boosts retention by 82%. Okay. And I can definitely attest to this. One thing that we've done is, completely systemized our onboarding. We have videos, all right, that they follow for a 90-day period. They're 5-minute videos, okay, that explain a piece or a process of our business. And then we have an assigned buddy that actually tests them on that knowledge. All right. So it's 15 minutes a day, roughly, that they can do. Again, it's in the back end of our Contractor AI CRM. These videos give them, a new piece of information and allow us to actually test them on it. Now, with the incorporation of AI, on a more advanced system, we can actually create a hiring onboarding agent that, basically became the buddy. So no longer do we need the actual buddy to test them on if they retain the information or if they needed help or they were wanting to ask questions about something, we've actually used an agent now that is highly effective. All right. So this is the epitome of adding, being able to manufacture employees. All right. With very little heavy lifting. Again, that's an advanced system. I wouldn't recommend it, if we're just starting out, if we haven't got the basics down. Okay. Second, step 5. All right, guys, we want to streamline your hiring process. All right. Just like with sales, I want you to understand something. All right. How many of you guys have noticed that your speed to lead matters? How quickly you get back to, new prospective clients matters, right? We're seeing that time turning to, be between 5 and 10 minutes if we haven't contacted them, they found somewhere else to go. This is the exact same thing with hiring, right? No different. So if you don't have a way to quickly respond and move people through your pipeline, all right, meaning you're not getting back to them for days on end, all right, don't expect to have a warm bench. All right. If you're not communicating, whether it be, through an automated process or using AI, if you're being advanced, but if you don't have steps in place that allow you to get back to, your prospects here, you're going to be left behind very quickly. All right. We also want to be able to offer a roadmap to new hires. Okay. Again, can be very basic. All right. But what I want you guys to understand is that there has been a very big fundamental shift. All right. In our hiring market, and a lot of contractors have really missed it. All right. And I'm going to explain it to you from my point of view. All right. Is that if you're a Gen Xer or baby boomer, all right, you were brought up with a set of values of work hard and you get somewhere, right? A lot of us in the trades, I know that was a generation of mine as well, right? If we work really hard, we're going to get somewhere. Okay. Unfortunately, starting in the millennial age groups, all right, there was obviously some shifts that happened, and the value system actually changed. All right. And two things that really shifted that was obviously seeing their parents struggle and realizing that working hard didn't actually get you as far as you'd like to be. All right. I think that that whole idea is no longer exists, right? So now we're very skeptical, right? So this generation that's coming in, and the ones that we judge as not wanting to work and, not being able to contribute, and it's very easy to make those assumptions. It's because you have a different value system. All right. The value system that a millennial down has, all right, is show me an opportunity first and then I'll work. Okay. Which goes contrary to how most construction companies and most contractors set their businesses up. All right. Especially if you were brought in on, an experience like mine, all right, where you had to work hard. Right off the bat, it was trial by fire. Well, that just does not work for the generations that are coming in below us. And you will see immediately a high turnover, or again, sort of the effects of having those people on our team, or those, younger generations. All right. And it's not that they don't want to work hard. They just don't want to work hard for you or your business. Right. They would if you were able to motivate them, if you were able to understand, again, their values and how they look at things. So one of the things that we always do with every new hire now that's been incredibly helpful is giving them a 2 to 3 year plan, day one, day two, all right, that allow them to get to the wages and the opportunity that they want. All right. So again, somebody comes in, maybe a junior installer, and they want to make it to a foreman position, right? We're going to give them the 2 to 3 year plan, and we're going to wrap that around some training. All right. And some milestones. Okay. Showing them the opportunity doesn't mean they'll always take it. All right. But showing them a roadmap or steps and how they can improve themselves and get further ahead in your business, all right, will lead to longer retention. All right. So offering training and growth, even if it's just shadowing. Okay. 68% of employees stay longer when recognized. Okay. So this is the other thing that I want to suggest everyone at least think about at this point if they're really struggling to hire, or if they want to, be a good employer into the future. All right. Is how are you going to measure and manage your people so they know when they're doing a really great job, but they also know when they're doing a shit job? All right. And we have to get a little bit more creative than just telling them that verbatim. Okay. So to give you kind of some context to what I'm explaining here, um, do your staff members, are they regularly held to a scorecard? All right. Are we explaining to them what good looks like? All right. Are we praising them when they've done a great job? All right. Do we have measurable, outcomes that we can share with them? All right. Or are you giving an environment where it's just show up and, work and that's it? All right. So again, no recognition for doing a great job, and even worse, no reprimand for doing a shit job. You're going to find that even A players coming into an environment like that will very quickly become complacent. Okay. So again, we want to be able to recognize using data, preferably, and recognizing your staff and the contributions they're making or not making. Okay, so I'm going to stop for 1 second before I move on. Is anybody got any questions here? If you'd like, you can unmute yourself or you can throw them in the chat.
There's one in the chat.
Yeah, I see that. What exactly is onboarding? There you go. That's a great question. So onboarding specifically is planned things that you're going to do to get that staff member incorporated into your business. So an example of onboarding, we have a welcome video, all right, with a quick test that they're going to complete on the values of our company. Okay. We do that day one. All right. If we've got forms, legal compliance, if we've got safety, all right, all of those things are pre-planned. All right. So think of it as being on a schedule. All right. And these can be as long or as short. Typically an onboarding in a full established system would take about 90 days. Just with the amount of information that you have to train to a new staff member. Whether you do it or not, okay, the average guy coming in takes more than 90 days to adjust to your company. Okay, so that's that period of time where somebody's brand new to your business. We want to make sure that experience is really positive, right? And that we're actually getting them trained and getting them up to speed so that they're profitable for our business, but also that we retain them. Does that make sense? Okay. So no surprise here, guys, but and I asked this question kind of off the bat, but 80% of contractors say hiring today is harder now than it was 5 years ago. Curious to know how many of you guys would agree with that. Give me a one in the chat if you agree with that. Okay. All right. So now with that in mind, right, I'll tell you a couple of things in terms of my mindset and how it's changed. I have been the absolute worst employer, all right, where at one point in our business, we had a near 90% turnover rate of new hires, near 90%. Okay, before I understood what onboarding was, all right, we had a growing business. We had over 25 employees, so 30 employees at the time, but I could not retain any new employees. All right, no matter what we did. So near 90% turnover rate, which was killing our business. All right. I had to make a change fundamentally, or we weren't able to continue to be in business in some situations. And just to give you context, we're a roofing contractor. So again, hard to make good quality hires there at the time, hard now. All right. And what I had to come to grips with and understand was that I was a shit employer because every new hire that got brought in was brought in the same way I was brought in. Okay. And not everybody, especially younger generations, appreciate that. Right. That's not really giving them an opportunity. It's not allowing them to see a benefit or, why would they just come work for you? Right. Nobody wants just a job anymore. Right. In fact, their whole value systems, about what that opportunity presents. So by taking that 90 days and building out, like I said, 5 minute, 15-minute buddy system at the time. All right. So we would teach them, a simple lesson. Maybe it was, how to put tools away or, again, I can using our brakes. All right. We would have that already pre-planned. Okay. And then they would pass a quick test on the practical side, and someone would actually show them it, right? They would make sure that they were competent with it, right? Once we knew they were competent, we had a record of training, all right? We didn't have to go back and re-explain it to them, all right? They also had a person that wasn't a supervisor, right? That they could talk to or, go through that lesson with. Okay. And then we found that that immediately created a lot of improvements in our business. And again, starting with the retention, right? We started to see our retention go up dramatically. I think we were, within the first year, we had nearly a 70% improvement, which again, for us, it was, game changing. All right. And at that time, it was sort of crude and just put together. And as we've gotten, bigger, we've been able to systemize it. As AI has come in, we've been able to really take it to the next level. All right. A lot of what Contractor AI does is help fix these kind of systems and make it easy for you to manufacture new employees. And I say manufacture, I'll explain that maybe towards the end. All right. But again, it's that experience of starting with your business. All right. Again, you've attracted the right person. Let's assume that you've got, your head wrapped around the marketing side and the selling side of, finding new hires. All right. We also have to now, turn that into a product, more or less. All right. And we want to make sure that we're giving ourselves the best opportunity to retain that staff member and to make sure that they're contributing as quickly and as efficiently as possible. All right. So I don't know how we could afford not to do onboarding. All right. But for anybody that is just new to this concept, it doesn't have to be complicated. Right. And I would encourage everybody here to take at least one action step. All right. To get one, quick win. I'm a big fan of quick wins. I think we all, can agree, right? Maybe we're not building out a full complex system. A lot of the getting this right is more of a marathon than a race. All right, but quick hires we can implement today or this week for everybody on the call, right? You've spent the time with me. I'd like you to think about the actions you can actually take away from this call, right? So write and update a job description. Very simple. So the role that you want to hire or all the roles that you have, even if you don't need to hire for them, don't wait till you do. Okay. Get your job descriptions clear. Make sure that you've written them in a way that the person you're trying to hire would understand immediately. Okay. So don't be putting in, irrelevant things or, again, just letting ChatGPT write these things out without any thought of how your business and your culture is. Okay. Add a reference check in your process. Again, very, very simple, guys. Very rarely done. All right. But you can save yourself a world of pain by following this one step. So adding a reference check into your process. Okay. Update your job ad with a team photo. Again, if you're running ads for any type of recruitment, I recommend that you all do. All right. Have a team photo. All right. That makes a significant difference. And it's an easy thing to implement. All right. Instead of thinking about your whole onboarding process over 90 days, I want you to just think of day one. What happens on day one? What forms get signed? How are they welcomed? All right. What's that experience like? All right. We can design one day very quickly. Okay. And another thing, a quick win here, you can give a public shout out. So if you have social media, if you're using any platform for your business, give a shout out to a team member. Okay. See how this impacts them personally, again, when they get to see it. But you'll notice a lot more, all right, other people's recognizing it. Okay. So companies that don't do this, all right, often are viewed or not viewed as a good employer. Okay. Again, if you're also looking to retain staff. So those are my quick wins for this call. Hopefully you guys will take action on at least one of these things. If you can take action on one of these things, then your time was spent well here. Am I able to watch later since? Yeah, absolutely. This is also live, guys, if you want on our YouTube channel. If you go to YouTube and look at the lives, our calls are always live every week. So you're more than welcome to check that out. I'll even throw the link in there in the chat for you guys. So I have a quick story for you guys to share in terms of getting this right and helping to solve some of these problems here. Okay. Mark's Home Service stopped hiring anyone focused on skilled techs only. All right. So again, they just stopped hiring anybody. All right. They made their line in the sand and they decided that they were only going to hire skilled techs only. Okay. Meaning that they had to be, and for this particular one, um, their handyman service, all right, that they had to have a certain amount of experience. All right. They checked, um, they checked all of the references. They followed the steps. They had a 15-minute interview. They had a full structured interview. Okay. They thought about their onboarding. All right. And the result of it is they cut turnover by 60% and doubled their customer reviews. Right. I'd say that's a pretty good improvement. Right. So cut turnover by 60% and doubled their customer reviews. One more caveat to that is that their revenue increased by almost 28%. Right. So one new hire, and instead of just hiring anybody with a pulse, all right, led to this. All right. And again, it's a lot to do with discipline, but it's also to do with systemizing, right? Understanding that we don't necessarily have a labor shortage. I'm going to put it to you like this. There's not less people on the planet today than there was 5 years ago, is there? We haven't gone down in population, have we? What about from 10 years ago, 20 years ago? No, there's not less people. Okay, there's more people. There's more, more people that are looking for jobs. All right. They're just not wanting to work in the trades, and it's very clear why. All right. It's because the trades in general is about 25 years behind, right? And they don't represent an opportunity when they should be. Because again, a lot of you guys could give very good jobs. They're high paying, they're protected. Okay. We have a lot of things that are going well that a lot of people could benefit from. The real problem is we don't sell or market that opportunity, right? We don't think about it the same way we think about serving our customers. And when that mind shift changes and you start to think about it in the same context, all right, you will see that there are many good people out there and more talent than you could ever imagine putting to work. Okay. But something has to change in the way that we process this. Okay. And our approach. Everybody that's on this call, I mean, you've taken the time. Obviously, you want to improve and grow your business. All right. I'm sure everybody here understands at least the basic levels of marketing and selling and how important it is. All right. I'm going to say that it's actually more important to focus on recruiting and hiring. Okay. Getting it right will allow your business to grow and scale. Getting it wrong will do the opposite. It'll keep you stuck for a very long time. All right. One bad hire, again, costs us big money. On the other hand, making a good hire, I know for a fact, right? One good installer represents about $100,000 in gross profit. All right. And that's pretty much the standard across the board. All right. In some electrical HVAC businesses, it can be even higher. All right. Now, let me ask you, how many of you guys are making $100,000 gross profit on a single job, on a single customer? Anyone making $100,000 in gross profit? I would say that's rare unless you're a large scale builder or you're doing large commercial projects longer term. All right. So then why aren't we looking at making the next best hire and attracting the right hire as being a bigger opportunity? Okay. Again, it's got to be a mindset shift. It's got to be a change in our habits. All right. Our discipline. Okay. And it's actually correcting something that maybe you didn't get the experience of having. All right. Just because you didn't, maybe you didn't have, and I might be speaking for myself here. Maybe some of you did get onboarded. All right. But I certainly did not. I didn't really appreciate the way I came into the market. I survived and did well and thrived. All right. But it was trial by fire. Right. And there was a lot of days where I was like, what am I doing? I can remember vividly as being a young apprentice, and there was no guidance or buddy system. It was a harsh environment, and I can definitely see why a lot of newcomers to the trade all right, just turn around and walk away from it very quickly, and why we have such high turnover rates, right? Because if that's the environment you're bringing people into, all right, who's going to want to stick around for that? It's hard enough on its own. Who's going to want to stick around for that? And especially if, everywhere else that they can go get a job does offer those things. I mean, even McDonald's has it, has had it for 40 years, right? The trades does not, in most part. Okay. So, just another quick point here, guys. If you are a rapidly expanding business, okay, if you're looking to make some huge growth, and I'm talking, 30, 40%, all right, you can very, very, very quickly get yourself into a lot of trouble in not having these things sorted out first. Okay. So I see it quite regularly. Usually, being a consultant, we're brought into turnaround situations where somebody's already gone down this path. One in particular is ABC Contracting. They tried to grow too fast. They hired just about anyone. They were picking people up from Home Depot and various other places. All right. The results were catastrophic. So by the time we started working with them, their callback rate was about 62%. Okay. You can imagine terrible reviews, slow cash flow, right? Just about every problem you can imagine. All right. An owner, running around putting out fires all day. All right. His statements to me is, I can't trust anyone, can't find good workers, all of these common things that I hear. All right. But at a very uncomfortable pace and scale. All right. So they were doing about 3 million at the time. All right. And pure chaos. All right. And if anyone can relate to it, they wanted to downsize. When we started working with them, they were looking to downsize. They were looking for a way out. We were able to help them in terms of fixing the hiring process. All right. Setting some standards and onboarding. All right. So that they could actually absorb some of the growth that they were experiencing, because it was a good thing. They definitely didn't have a sales and marketing problem at the time. They were very good at it. But what they didn't realize, all right, is that they could use the exact same skills, platforms, technology to actually be a great place to work as well. All right. We were able to turn that around for them in about 90 days, right? Where we started onboarding, key employees and key staff. We stopped going and picking up laborers at Home Depot. All right. And they were able to turn around, their entire business and be able to absorb that growth in, under 6 months. All right. Callback rate dropped to less than 2%. Okay. So again, guys, it's all about figuring out what we can do and take action on. All right. A lot of the systems I've talked about, both simple and advanced, all right, are going to take a small commitment from your end, all right, but have huge lifetime value. Okay. So let me ask you, what's your number one hiring challenge? What's the one thing you wish you knew before your last hire? So if you wanted to unmute yourself, if you feel brave enough, or throw your answers or questions in the chat, I would love to help you in improving your hiring process, no matter what scale or size that you are. Okay. All right. Gonna assume that everyone's good to go then on hiring.
One had a question there in the chat.
Oh, did he? Okay. Still somewhat new to painting business and having trouble growing and creating leads. Any recommendation? I'd appreciate any info guides. Yeah. So being new, again, before ads, I would always recommend that you pull your phone out of your pocket, all right, and start making content. All right. Short form content. And again, never assume that what you're doing, all right, no one would be interested in. The best way to get eyes on your business, especially in the early stages, okay, is to market yourself locally. We all have access to a free platform to generate leads, both for hiring and for business. And that wasn't something I had available when I started out. Now it is tremendously easy to influence and to attract, good customers and good staff. If you want to, the fastest trip to that, it's just making short form content. That's what I would recommend, right? Getting active in community Facebook pages, posting your content in places where it would be of value would be my suggestion. If you have a budget and you have money to invest, using the ads platform, also very helpful, right? If you're trying to, generate leads quickly and you have money to invest in those, ads are always a fairly easy way to get predictable lead flow. Okay. Yeah, no problem. What are some initial steps to mark the onboarding? Yeah. So I have a checklist I've lost here. What we're gonna do is everybody that was on the call today, we're gonna send out some documents that you guys can use because I had this already set up. I'm sorry, I had a bit of a technical glitch there. And or Maria, maybe if you want to reach out to us, we'll give you a playbook on onboarding.
Yeah,
Okay.
please drop your email in the chats and we'll make sure to get that for you.
Yeah, we have all the sheets, the forms, everything else. We have it in a playbook. I can't share it over this chat. It's too large of a document. We'll have to compress it down. I apologize for that, but again, if you want to throw your email in or reach out privately, we'll happily share our playbook with you. It's a pretty extensive PDF that you can use and start to solve this problem for you right away.
Hey Jay, I got a question.
Sure.
I jumped in a little late. I heard you going over hires. Was you going over anything on subcontracting contractors?
Yeah, I mean it's the same exact steps, right? So just a little bit different change in our advertising. So subcontractors, again, you want to meet them where they're at. Most of the time, you can find them through social media platforms. So Facebook groups, getting into groups that you are a part of, membership groups, association groups. Again, those are great places to start conversations. Um, in terms of your subcontractor. And the same thing goes with a subcontractor, a little bit less hands off in the full, having to onboard them. All right. But you still have to have a process in place that allow them to come in and see that you're structured. Again, attracting them is putting it out in your social media. Just telling your social media that you're looking for that role, right? That's really helpful as well. And having a good CRM to be able to bring them through and check the references, all those kind of things that you're going to do. So we very much treat subs the same way as we do employees, minus the extensive onboarding part. We still do onboarding, but it's the same CRM, same workflows, all the same. Just a little bit different twist on how you're advertising for it.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, anybody that wants the hiring playbook, I think I've got a little bit in there about subcontractors as well. Again, if you take the same principles I've shared with you today, you can apply them directly to hiring subs, attracting subs. Again, if you're a general contractor or anything like that, that's going to be really helpful for you. Okay, any other questions, guys? Okay. Did you grab all those emails? Are we good to go? Send everybody out the playbook in a bit.
Yeah, I already have all of the emails. You'll get the guide.
Excellent. Okay, guys. Appreciate you stopping in and hopefully you've got some value or prepared yourself to take some action steps today. And we'll talk to you soon.